Hi, friends, and welcome back to Peace is Here. I'm your host, Avis Kalfsbeek. This is a special interlude episode in the Wolff Peace series, our first chance to step back, breathe, and reflect on everything we've explored so far in episodes 45 through 51. We've just completed part one of Robert Paul Wolff's Political Man and Social Man, titled The Individual and the State, Political Authority, Its Sources, and Varieties. These first thinkers laid the foundation asking, where does political power come from, and who gives it legitimacy? Let's take a moment to honor who we've met on this journey. Richard Hooker, who invoked divine law and natural order. John Austin, who grounded authority in command and obedience. Max Weber, who categorized forms of legitimate rule from tradition to charisma to bureaucracy. Vladimir Lenin, who saw the state as a weapon of class violence. John Locke, who offered a contract theory of freedom. David Hume, who questioned whether such contracts ever truly existed. And Friedrich Engels, who traced the origin of the state to private property and patriarchy. Each thinker had a distinct vision of power. Some tried to justify it, others sought to dismantle it. But alongside them, we paired peace warriors who embodied a different kind of authority, the kind rooted not in force, but in moral clarity, spiritual courage, and relational truth. Dorothy Day, who chose voluntary poverty and radical hospitality over control. Audre Lorde, who showed us that difference, when embraced, can be a source of power, not domination. Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who led nonviolent resistance among Muslim Pashtuns. Leo Tolstoy, who rejected all state violence, even when it claimed to serve justice. Vandana Shiva, who reminded us that living systems and human rights don't need permission to exist. Wangari Maathai, who grew a movement from the soil up. Bayard Rustin, who taught us that organizing and soul force go hand in hand. I love reading the names of these peace-loving souls as a group. It makes me feel even more this unified peace we're working towards. Together, they've given us a layered portrait of what authority can be and what peace requires when the systems around us fail. A word on now. As we release this episode, the world feels heavy. The United States reportedly joined Israel in bombing Iranian targets. Anarchists are no longer fringe voices, they're talking heads. And some citizens, or at least the media tells us, cheer the erosion of democratic norms as if it were a homecoming. I don't love reading this following list of conflicts, and I believe focusing energy on affirmative vision brings peace. That said, this is the picture of the major active conflicts unfolding right now in mid-2025. Russian invasion of Ukraine since 2014, a full-scale war since 2022 with hundreds of thousands of military and civilian casualties. Israel-Gaza and Israel-Iran proxy conflict escalating since 2023. Includes cross-border tensions involving Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. Tens of thousands have died. Sudanese civil war since April 2023. Fighting between the Sudanese military and paramilitary groups, over 24,000 dead and 13 million displaced. Ethiopian conflicts, Amhara and Tigray regions, civil war involving federal forces and regional militias, heavy fighting and widespread civilian harm. Sahel insurgency, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger since 2011. Multiple jihadist militant groups versus national armies, tens of thousands killed and millions displaced. DR Congo, Eastern DRC conflicts, ongoing violence involving rebel groups such as M23 and government forces with severe humanitarian consequences. Yemen civil war since 2014, government versus Houthi rebels with Saudi-led intervention, catastrophic humanitarian damage. Somali al-Shahab conflict, 2025 Shabelle offensive, renewed offensive by al-Shabaab militants in central Somalia. Myanmar civil war since 2011 escalated since the 2021 coup, conflict between military junta and various ethnic and pro-democracy groups. Libyan civil strife since 2011, intermittent. Rival governments and militias continue contesting control, recent escalations in early 2025. And other significant conflicts with 1,000 to 10,000 annual deaths, such as the Colombia conflict, Somali crisis, Niger Delta, Iraq insurgencies, CAR civil war, Mozambique jihadist insurgency, and Mexican cartels activity. These are tragedies in motion, wrought by history, injustice, contested power, and silence. Now imagine a world where war has faded into our history and out of our headlines. What do the thinkers we studied so far offer? Hooker, Locke, and Austin remind us how seductive it is to want order, even if it comes at a cost. Lenin and Engels show what happens when the order becomes intolerable and people rise, often with blood. Hume and Weber whisper, "Power is always wearing a mask. Look closer." But it's the peace warriors I can't stop thinking about. Tolstoy, Day, Matow, Shiva, they weren't naive. They saw how ugly the world can get, but still they chose love, still they believed in transformation, still they practiced what Audre Lorde called the erotic as power, not domination, but presence, passion, and integrity. I was curious about Lorde's concept of the erotic as power and learned that it is one of her most profound contributions to feminist and liberation thought. In her 1978 essay, Uses of the Erotic as Power, Lorde reclaims the word erotic from its narrow sexualized interpretation and instead defines it as a deep, life-affirming source of power rooted in emotion, joy, and self-knowledge. For Lorde, the erotic is about authentic connection to feeling, creativity, and the fullness of being alive. Here's how she frames it. The erotic is a measure between the beginnings of our sense of self and the chaos of our strongest feelings. It is an internal sense of satisfaction to which, once we have experienced it, we know we can aspire. And the erotic is the nurturer or nursemaid of all our deepest knowledge. Key ideas in her use of the erotic as power: connection to inner truth. The erotic is a source of knowing what feels right, what feels just. It is personal truth that resists external authority. Rebellion against oppression. Systems of power teach us to distrust our feelings. Reclaiming the erotic is a political act. It means saying, "I trust myself." Fuel for transformation. When we live from the erotic, when we demand joy, integrity, and depth, we reject numbness, compliance, and exploitation. Nonviolent strength. The erotic is not about domination. It's about presence. It fuels action that is creative, grounded, and deeply human. Lorde helps us shift the conversation to embodied wisdom, moral intuition, and the kind of peace that begins within. To sum it up, when Lorde speaks of the erotic as power, she's talking about the deep intuitive force within us that says yes to joy, truth, and integrity, and no to domination. This is Peace Warrior in a nutshell. Peace questions to ponder. Big picture. What kind of authority do you trust and why? Does it come from law, tradition, charisma, or something else? Day-to-day life. When you feel powerless, what do you reach for first? Control, withdrawal, connection, inner knowing, or something else entirely? That concludes this episode of Peace is Here. You can learn more at aviskalfsbeek.com, where I share updates on this podcast and my books, including the newly released novella Mano Mutante, a story about food, friendship, and finding peace in the soy-soaked heart of industrial ag Iowa. I write best friend activist short fiction in my Pater the Water Dog Saves the Planet 6-book series. Coming up next, more thinkers, more peace pairings, and more bold questions from the Wolff Peace series. This episode is human narrated by me, but was created with the help of AI, which has promised to let me know if it makes something up. So far, no confessions, but if you believe I've missed something, or if you just want to say hello, I'd love to hear from you. Podcast music is Dalai Lama Riding a Bike by Javier Peque Rodriguez. Links to his music on Spotify and Bandcamp are in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, it really helps me if you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, or send it to a friend. I'm Avis Kalfsbeek, and I write the Pedro the Water Dog Saves the Planet book series, which are a series of environmental adventure novellas. Books 1 through 6 are available at all your favorite online bookstores or at aviskalfsbeek.com. Go to aviskalfsbeek.com to be notified when new books come out. Thank you again. Until next time, listen for the peace.